For our next example, we're going to look at simple file input-output and displaying the contents of a text file in one of our text boxes. Now I've created another button which I've called BTN Open File, and that's going to generate a click event for that button. We're going to write code in that event in order to open a file and display its contents. Now I'm going to display the contents in our old txt output text box, and I'm going to update the property, or one of the properties of that text box, called scroll bars, to use a vertical scroll bar. And we can see that it's added a scroll bar to that text box. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the Open File button, which is BTN. We've called BTN Open File to generate the code behind for that. And I'm going to write some code in order to access a test file that I've set up. Now that test file is located in my bin debug directory, and that's where our executable is initially created. When we first create a Windows application, it is debugged by default, and that allows us to put it simply, step through the code and test the application. We're able to access that test text file without using the full path of that file. In other words, we would have to reference it as C users to all documents, sharp develop projects, magical interfaces test, and all the other folders underneath that. And I'd rather not do that because that's a long string just to access that file. So rather than doing that, we're going to simply refer to the file by name, because it's going to know where to find it in that debug directory, because it's going to look in that local folder first. So we're going to create a string constant called str file name, and we're going to hard code the name of that test file, which is test.txt. Next, we're going to create another string variable called str file contents. And we're going to set the contents string, or str file contents, by calling a static class called system IO, and that's system input output file, and we're going to call a function called read all text of that class, passing our str file name variable containing the name of our text file as a parameter. Then we're going to set our txt output text box to the value of that variable, str file contents. So now we can save the application and run it. And when we click on our Open File button, we get text inside that file. And it says, This is a test text file for the Magical Interfaces test project. It contains a relatively small amount of text that can be stored in a string variable. We can use the scroll bars to see the entire contents. Now, if I were to go here and double click on this, I could add some more text. For example, I just added some more text to the end of the text file. Okay, and save that. Now when I run our application again, and click on the Open File button, I can see that it's added that extra text. I just added some more text to the end of the test file. Okay, now if we were to rename this file, let's say we change the name to test2, we're going to have an error when we try to run this read all text function. And there's a couple ways to handle this. The best way to handle it would be to actually look at our directory and check to see if that file exists. But for our example, we're going to use something that's called a try-catch block in order to trap that error and display an error message. Oops, I've already got the curly braces there. So we'll display our error message in the output text box in the event that there is a problem. And we'll display the message. Go ahead and save that and run the application again. And try to open the file. Now we can see could not find file, and it gives us the path of that bin directory. So if we were to create a breakpoint here, we could see that it's going to skip over the command to display the contents of that file by setting text output text to our string file contents variable, and instead output the value of our exception, our EX message. So we have a variable here in our catch called EX, and it's an exception class. So let's go ahead and save that, execute the application again, and walk through or step through the code one instruction at a time to see what it's actually doing. So I'm going to click on our F10 function, and we see that once it gets to here, and tries to run that, it goes into our exception block because it wasn't able to find that test file. It's looking for test.txt, and we've renamed it to test2.txt. Okay, so now we have the value of that EX variable, and it's displaying that message, that error message.